If we have time, actually, after we're done, it has not. Turn around there somewhere. Mark time. Colors. Fall. And behind them. Left. Face. Come right up here with Lisa.
There will be two playings of the national anthem of the United States of America, and the national anthem of France. Color guard, reset, high!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets wriggling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant de la vie, l'étendard sanglant de la vie. Entendez-nous donner campagne, mourir ces féroces soldats,
Order! Hunt! Order! Hunt! Parade! Rest!
Thank you very much to Lisa Zolkowitz-Ives and Annika Chang-Beckman from Choate Rosemary Hall, favoring us with the French anthem. How many of you know the name of the French anthem, the title? What is it? It's La Marseillaise, right? Beautiful job, both. And now I'd like to invite Chief Warrant Officer 4, John DiBastino, to offer today's invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for all of the benefits we have of living in this nation. And we thank you for the many millions of men and women who have served in our armed forces. And especially today, we honor Major Lufbery, an exceptional man who would volunteer to fly those old planes on behalf of France, then the United States, and also had served in the Spanish-American War and went on to serve in the United States Army for years after World War I. We ask your blessing upon his family, upon the town of Wallingford, and all who are here today. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chief Warrant Officer 4, John DiBastino. And thank all of you to come out here for this celebration today. This is part of the beginning of the celebration of Wallingford's 350th anniversary. And today is the 100th anniversary of this month is the 100th anniversary of the passing of Major Lufbery. He served heroically and magnificently as a fighter pilot for both France and America. That's why we did both anthems, in case you didn't know. We are very happy that you took the time to come here today to mark this occasion. In a little while, we'll be unveiling this plaque, the special plaque, in commemoration of this occasion. And I encourage all of you to take some time to go online or go to the library. Imagine that, go to the library and look at a book. Wherever you do it, get some research on the amazing things that he accomplished, Major Lufbery. Sadly, while it's the 100th anniversary this month of his passing in a battle with another plane, this week also marks, as I read in today's Record Journal, the passing of his niece, Doris Rhea. And maybe a moment of silence for Doris. Thank you very much. He was actually America's first flying ace. I don't recall the number of kills, as they called it back then, but there were a lot. And because of his exploits, he is probably Connecticut's greatest hero of that conflict, World War I. And we in Wallingford, of course, also claim him because he once lived here, I think, for a couple of years. We have a VFW post that bears his name. And by the way, you're invited there for some refreshments afterwards. And we have a street named after him. I just passed it on the way up here today, on the way up by Wallace Park. There's Lufbery Avenue, in case you didn't know that. And then there's the park on the west side of town, off Cheshire Road, Lufbery Park. And that's a place that's very close to our hearts, our family, because we spent many Memorial Day weekends there celebrating the occasion and having a chance for the family all to be reunited. And we had a lot of food and good fun there. At this time, I'd like to call on the mayor of the town of Wallingford, His Honor, William Dickinson. Bill. Oh, he's got his bugle.
It's very important that we as a community, the community of Wallingford, gather today and remember Major Raoul Lufbery. We remember his exploits, but we also keep in mind his spirit, a spirit of adventure, a spirit of courage, a spirit of patriotism. It's very reminiscent of the people who founded this country, the people who founded Wallingford, 1670, the people with indomitable effort and energy to crusade and do something that is so memorable and dangerous. We are fortunate we have such people in our history, and we certainly need them today and in our future. Everyone's life is expressed with certain medium. For some, it might be concrete or masonry. For others, it may be on paper. For others, it may be on cloth. Major Lufbery chose to write his life in the sky. That sets him apart right there. The sky that we all depend upon, the beauty with sunsets, sunrises, that's where he chose to write his life. I want to provide our tribute with a call to color. Thank you, Major Raoul Lufbery.
Thank you, Mayor Dickinson. Now I need to call on some dignitaries who are here for some remarks of their own about this great occasion. And first, I'd like to call on one of our representatives in the General Assembly of the state of Connecticut, Senator Len Fasano. It's also with Craig Fishbein, State Representative.
It's always tough to follow the mayor, and since I have no talents whatsoever, I brought Representative Fishbein with me. You know, what's great about the town of Wallingford, in many respects, it's a beautiful town, it's got so much going for it, but the respect that it has for its veterans. And when you're at the Memorial Day parade or veterans ceremony or what have you, the outpouring of this town in recognizing those who have served this country admirably with their lives is just phenomenal. I have not seen that repeated in many other towns across the state like I have in the town of Wallingford. It makes it so proud to be here. Governor Malloy has sent a citation official statement, which I'd like to read. Whereas Major Raoul Lufbery was born in France on March 14, 1885, and later emigrated to the United States with his family, where he lived in New York, in New Jersey, eventually settling in Wallingford. And whereas Major Lufbery set out on his own, working various jobs, eventually enlisting in the United States Army and serving the Philippines. And whereas France and Germany entered World War I in August of 1914, Raoul joined the French Foreign Legion. And whereas Major Lufbery enlisted in the aviation school, where he learned to train to fly escort missions with a bomber squadron and went on to enlist in combat and fighter school. And whereas in May 1916, Major Lufbery joined the newly assembled squadron of American volunteer combat pilots, which became known as Lafayette Escadrille. And whereas he fought with his squadron over 2 years, becoming the highest scoring ace in the Lafayette Escadrille. And whereas he was commissioned into the United States Army Air Force in January of 1918, where he trained new pilots and then eventually returned to the combat mission. And whereas Major Lufbery was shot down in a dogfight over Toul, France on May 19, 1918, and was buried with full military honors, and his remains lay in Lafayette Escadrille Memorial in Versailles, France. Now, therefore, I, Daniel P. Malloy, Governor of the State of Connecticut, do hereby proclaim honor and recognition upon Major Raoul Lufbery, in the state of Connecticut, signed by Daniel P. Malloy.
They say I'm a man of many words. I have no words for today. We're in session, so I know Senator Fasano and I are going to be leaving, but congratulations to all. And for the town allowing the monument to be here is very special to our town and hopefully for many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you, Craig and Len, for being here. Nice to see you guys again. Now get back to work. Unfinished business. What, May 9th, right? Coming fast. Help us out. Do we have any other members of the legislature? I have Vin Candelora listed here. Is he here? And how about Vinnie Cervoni? Oh, Vinnie, yeah, there's Vinnie. From the town council, he's the chairman. And would you like to say a few words, Vin? Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I want to acknowledge the Lufbery family or the descendants for traveling from so far away to come to our beautiful town, a town that is rich with the acknowledgments of history. What is significant about the location of this monument is that it completes a sort of trail in the center of town. If you start at the north and go all the way up to where North Main Street turns into North Main Street Extension, there is the War Memorial Park. Then there's Dutton Park, where there's a war monument. You continue south to the police station, which is the former State Armory on North Main Street, and there is another series of war memorials. And if you continue south to Town Hall, there's another series of war memorials in front of Town Hall, and here completes the trail. And this is what Wallingford, the people of Wallingford, do. We celebrate the history of freedom that has made America what it continues to be today. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this and this very important placement of this monument. Thank you.
Thanks, Vin. And now I guess it's time for us to unveil this. Bob Beaumont and Ray Chappell, are you both coming forward at this time? And we need the descendants of Raoul Lufbery. Okay. Robert Stickles Sr., Raoul Lufbery IV, and Raymond Wolfe. And I'll turn the microphone over to, I'm sorry?
Raoul Lufbery the third, actually.
The third.
Typo.
Oh, it says IV.
I know what it says.
But the fourth
Yeah,
is
well,
here also.
The fourth
just to
is
let
here.
you know.
Gee, I never got any bad scripts before. Oh, I could tell you about a few. Anyway, the third. And are we going to do a countdown to the reveal?
If you would like to.
All right, let's do a countdown.
Choice.
3, 2, 1. There you are. What an amazing, beautiful plaque. And we certainly thank Major Lufbery for giving us, through his deeds, this wonderful occasion to celebrate for the town, for the state, and for our country. And I encourage you to read this and also visit the Historical Society here. If you haven't been here, they give tours and you will learn a lot more about the town that you didn't know, some amazing things. So make an appointment to do that. Thank you. So there you are. Come and enjoy when you can, but not right now. We have some more things to do. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Uneven ground.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing on the script that was given to me says something about flag ceremony and presentations. And Bob Devaney, who is co-chair of the Wallingford 350, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And along with Christine Mansfield. Where's Christine? Is she here? She's here somewhere.
She's here. She's hiding.
There she is, over there. Come on out and take a bow, Christine. Bob's had enough publicity for today. You can, Christine Mansfield.
Alan, you just need to say something about the film.
All right. Bob wants to say something about the plaque. Bob?
Not the plaque. Excuse me, it's about the flag.
Oh, the flag. Oh, sorry. The plaque.
Great thanks goes out to Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro and Bob and Joan Parisi for acquiring this flag that flew over the Capitol. And after speaking with the family, we want to present the flag to the family. The family, in turn, has decided to give the flag back to Wallingford and to be kept here at the Historical Society. So we're going to unfold the flag. The colors will be brought to attention. We're going to play taps. And then I'm going to hand the flag to the family, and they're going to give it back to Wallingford. Sergeant Wozniak.
Attention. Right shoulder, arms.
Color guard, and hut! Right shoulder, arms! Reset, arms! Beaumont, Ray Chapel, please come forward.
Heavenly Father, as we go about our way, we ask that you be with each and every person here, keeping us safe along the way, reminding us of what we have celebrated today, and the history of our country, our spiritual history, and all of these things. And we ask that you send angels to protect us, and we give you praise for all the good things we enjoy in this life. Amen.
Thank you for the benediction, Chief Warrant Officer 4, John DiPostino. We talk about the committee organizing the Wallingford 350. You can all sit down right now, I think. Be fine. I know he appreciates it. I'm sure a lot of you do. How hard it is to get things set up for this thing, this event, this 350th, which is 2 years off, just 2 years off. So my hat's off to Bob Devaney and Christine Mansfield. I mean, I can't imagine what they went through to get Amtrak to play those train whistles just at the same time the flag ceremony was underway. What? That coordination must have been, kept them up at night to make sure it worked, but it worked perfectly, I think. Although right now, I want to call on one more person involved in the 350th, and that's Tarn Granucci. He's the poet laureate. He has something is this original, or are you just reading somebody else's work? Of course, it would have to be yours. All right, Tarn, give it your best voice, and you have a good one.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. This is a poem for Raoul. I think that we shall never see a man as brave as Raoul Lufbery. A century ago, he took to the sky to fight for us, not afraid to die. He fought for the safety of our country, an amazing man with no effrontery. Raoul was a hero of the First World War, Connecticut's best hero, a Wallingford star. He lived in Wallingford a long time ago. We have never forgotten him, that we know. Today, we honor this man named Lufbery. His memory we carry for posterity.
Well done, Tarn. Thank you very much. And at this time, I'd like to invite Raoul Lufbery III to come forward and speak for the family in some words of gratitude for your presence here today and for what the Historical Society and the Wallingford 350th have done.
Thank you very much for being here today to honor Major Raoul Lufbery. It's a pleasure, it's a beautiful day, and I need to tell you there's about 25 Lufberys and relations all throughout the crowd. So if you're in a Lufbery or related or a good friend, please raise your hand. Hey, it's wonderful to see you all. I am Raoul Lufbery III, and I have the pleasure to speak with you today for a very important past family member, an outstanding World War I pilot, a pioneer developer of aerial fighter tactics, the very first American flying ace, my great uncle, Major Raoul Lufbery. It's my intent today to provide you an overview, a quick overview, of Major Lufbery's life and his outstanding military career. I'll also share some interesting facts and details that you won't find in those history books or on the internet about this remarkable man and his life in Wallingford. On May 24th, 1916, Raoul became the 8th member to join the All-American Volunteer Aviation Unit known as the Lafayette Escadrille. Over the next 21 months of its existence, a total of 38 men from all walks of life and also from many locations throughout the United States would join this very elite group of early military sky fighters. These special Americans felt an obligation to fight for France, for their patriotic views and their democratic principles some 2 years before the United States officially enters the war. On October 12th, Raoul became the first, on October 12th, 1916, Raoul became the first American ace by shooting down his 5th enemy aircraft. Ultimately, he shot down more enemy planes than anyone else in the squadron, and he became a triple ace on December 2nd, 1917. I have a little bee visiting me. 1 second, please. I'm now going to share some interesting facts and details about Major Lufbery that very few people know about, but I want to do that because I think he'd be happy to hear them. He was a short man of stature, 5 feet 7 inches tall. He weighed 155 pounds, broad shoulders, and a powerful physique. As a teenager and young adult, he loved the sports of boxing, wrestling, gymnastics, and weightlifting. Of the 38 pilots in his squadron, most considered him the most physically fit individual in the unit. This had a very strong advantage when flying those early biplanes of World War I, especially at the higher altitudes. Raoul had soft blue eyes. The rest of the family, with the exception of a few, all have brown. Don't know how that happened. His eyesight was 20/10. Excellent. Couldn't be any better. Okay, this was a monstrous advantage in those early days of dogfight engagements. Back then, there was no radar, and there were also no computerized flight tracking devices. So the pilot that saw his adversary first had a superior advantage in getting the best possible position for a deadly attack. Lufbery said of the many enemy planes that he shot down, that most of the pilots that he met their demise never saw or knew what hit them. He had something which I thought was very unique, the mental and emotional attributes to make excellent decisions under extreme stress and fighting situations. He had the coolest nerve. He also had the temperament for a fight. He had the sense of absolute duty and fearlessness. Raoul was known never to substitute opportunity and favorable position for reckless courage. He often said pilots with reckless courage found an early grave. Raoul had an eagle tattoo on his left arm and a rooster on the right arm. It was applied 10 years earlier when he was making his U.S. Army tour in the Philippines. He was also known to be the best rifle marksman in the entire regiment. Major Lufbery's nickname was Luff to all his comrades in World War I. Here in Wallingford, his family members all called him by his real first name, Gervais. However, Major Lufbery never used Gervais outside the family circle. He preferred his name Raoul to be used. Major Lufbery was very proud, and he felt very important that Wallingford was his hometown. He was actually born in Gervais, France in 1885 to a French mother and to an American father, my great-grandfather, Edward Lufbery, who did have close ties to Wallingford. His mother passed away at 26 years of age, and when Raoul was about 15 months old. A few years later, Edward remarried and departed for the United States, and Raoul and his two older brothers were left to fend for themselves, so to speak, with their French grandparents. When Raoul was 12 years old, he was forced to leave school to help support the family. His first job was an office boy at a law firm. He went on to sell shoes after that, and then he basically became a laborer worker at a rubber company in the city of Clermont-Ferrand, France. At 15 years of age, he began his many traveling experiences by roaming through the countryside and the cities of France. He was a sturdy and self-sufficient teenager, to say the least. At 18 years of age, he began his world's travels that took him all over Europe, Asia, and Africa. Now the important part. In 1906, Raoul traveled to Wallingford to meet up with his father and his brother, Charlie, who were already back here from France to basically live a better life and for career opportunities. As the story goes, the day Raoul arrived in Wallingford, his father, Edward, left New York on a ship for Europe to expand his large stamp collecting business. Neither man knew the other's travel status. They never met up, and unfortunately, they would never see each other again. Charlie, my grandfather, and Uncle Raoul both lived and worked in Wallingford from 1906 to 1908. They had an apartment just up the road at 35 North Main Street, close to where the Archie Moore and Bar restaurant were. So they lived there 2 years. They were both employed at the Simpson Hall and Miller Silver Factory, and most people knew that as Factory L. The factory was located on Center Street, right now where the Silver Ponds apartments are located. Raoul worked at the factory making silver casket handles and coffin fittings for 2 years. For recreation, Raoul continued on with his interest in boxing and weightlifting. He was known to use the gyms in Wallingford and wager a few dollars with other young men from Wallingford over boxing matches. I was told by Grandpa Charlie, Raoul really lost the fight, so he was pretty darn good. Okay. Raoul and Charles both attended the Colony Street Night School, where they improved their English-speaking skills. And I remember Grandfather Charles' spoken word. He spoke English very softly and sweetly. It was very comforting. Many times you couldn't understand him, but it sounded super nice, let me just tell you that. Raoul and Charles loved to go mushroom hunting in the forested areas or the wooded areas around Wallingford. Raoul had no love affair for the big cities of Europe and Asia, and thought Wallingford was a lovely place with its majestic hills, its scenic landscapes, and its flowing streams. Raoul also enjoyed meeting up with his 5 American family siblings from his father's second marriage here in Wallingford. Stepsister Helen, Bertha, Marie-Louise, Germaine, and stepbrother Rainey all resided in Wallingford or Yalesville. After 2 years in Wallingford, Raoul left for more globe-trotting adventures that took him all around the world for the rest of his life. He would correspond back with the Lufberys here in Wallingford throughout that entire time. Most importantly, Raoul called Wallingford his hometown and used the town as his place of residency right up to his death in battle some 11 years later. Raoul often said after the war he would return to Wallingford to settle down. From 1908 to 1913, Raoul would continue with his worldwide travels. Of the 30 jobs he had to support his adventures during that 5-year time span, some of the most interesting things he did were beer brewmaster, plane mechanic, customs agent, aviation ground crew worker, tiger hunter expedition assistant, railroad ticket collector, race car driver, and a carnival merry-go-round worker. When World War I broke out in Europe in August 1914, Raoul and his very good friend Mark both volunteered to fight for France. Mark was killed in a flying accident early on with the French Air Service. Because of Raoul's American citizenship, he joined the Foreign Legion. He soon petitioned, and he entered the French Air Service soon after that to fly bombers, and then he went on to fly fighter aircraft. Raoul said he became a combat fighter pilot to revenge his good friend's death. After receiving considerable coverage in newspapers and magazines on both sides of the Atlantic, because of all his war victories, he became very famous. At the height of his military career in 1918, he was as famous in the United States and Europe as a top movie star would be today. He did receive marriage proposals. Babies were named after him. Companies would claim in their advertisement that Raoul used their product all the time, and restaurants would name their gourmet dishes after him. Of all this fame and notoriety, Raoul would say he was very surprised that so much attention would come his way. He was modest, reserved, and a private man. His communications with others was very soft, direct, and to the point. He was never known to gossip or get involved with small talk throughout his entire life. Raoul was the key person of the Air Squadron, who fed, cared for, and played roughhouse game with the two African lion mascots. The lions, their names were Whiskey and Soda. Whiskey was the male, Soda was the female. I think Raoul enjoyed these lions for their unwavering companionship and loyalty. Unfortunately, Major Lufbery was killed in an aerial dogfight on May 19, 1918 over Meran, France, as a member of the United States Army Air Corps 94th Aero Squadron Division. His father, Edward, would say after learning of Raoul's death, did it right here in Wallingford, it was the war that Raoul waited for as he wandered all over this world to find. He walked on the ground, he lived on the ground, and he worked on the ground. All the time, it was the sky where he belonged. The war was Raoul's mother, sweetheart, and wife to him. Even though Raoul had no interest in glory, I'm sure he would be very honored today for this special remembrance service from the people of Wallingford some 100 years after his unfortunate combat death. I'm also sure the Wallingford Lufberys from the past, the World War II generation, would be very appreciative of this centennial service for Major Lufbery. Those family members were Marcel, Marie, Bobby, and Diane Lufbery that lived on South Elm Street, Doris and her husband Joe Reed, who lived on Scard Road, and my parents, Raoul too and Margaret, who had ties to Valley Street and Cherry Street. My generation of Lufbery members, many who are here today, would very much like to thank the Wallingford 350th Jubilee Committee, the Wallingford Historical Society, the VFW Post 591, Mayor William Dickinson, the Town Council members, for sponsoring this wonder event to Major Lufbery. I also need to thank my cousins, Bob Stickle and Ray Wolf, for their help with the design and acquisition of this new bronze plaque remembering Major Lufbery. And this will be displayed here on the front lawn of the Wallingford Historical Society for many years to come. I thank you today for attending and remembering Major Lufbery for this very special occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raoul. That was a great presentation, wasn't it? That was a bonus to get the real story. No fake news here today. That's the real story. All right, I want to mention to you that there is somebody here wearing a uniform that you may not have been familiar with, and I'd like to invite that gentleman to come forward, please. Where would you guess he's from? France. Of course. We say in America, France. They say France.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Am I expecting to talk?
Yes.
Well, I have some bad news and some good news. The bad news is that I did not prepare anything. The good news is that I'm not shy, usually. The other bad news is that when you give me a mic, I don't give it back. How long do I have?
30 seconds.
Okay, let's not waste time then. My name is Patrick Duterte. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the French army. I'm recently retired. I'm also the president of the Association of French Foreign Officers in the US. I feel a kinship to Major Lufbery. Like me, he served in the French army and he served in the US Army. He trained with the French Foreign Legion and with US forces. I trained with the French Foreign Legion. I trained with the Airborne Rangers in France. I trained with the Civil Affairs here, with the National Guard. I trained with the Marines, and I taught at West Point. He had a rooster, I just learned, and an eagle tattooed on his body. Maybe I should think of doing the same thing. Because I'm very much part of the two countries. I came here in 1977. My wife is American, my family is American, my life is here. And I have a story to explain this. It was in France, in the middle of nowhere on a farm, more than 50 years ago. We had something called the TSF, that was the radio, wireless radio. And through this radio, the terrible news came in. President Kennedy had just been assassinated. And this young boy in the middle of France, in the middle of nowhere, more than 50 years ago, started to cry. Why are you asking, is a young boy from France crying because the leader of the United States of America has been killed? Well, I was this young boy, so I can tell you why. Like most of the country of France, I was infatuated with America. We all talked about America. America, the Americans were our heroes. And to explain that, I need to go back a little bit further. About 60 years ago, I must have been 5, 6 years old, and I was in the same farm with my parents. And I talked to my mother, and I said, "Maman, what is USA?" And my mother answered, "Well, this means United States of America." This means, and this USA, they were always preceded by 2 words, made in. So my mother explained, this means your toy truck, it was made by the Americans. The Americans? Who are the Americans? Well, the Americans, they live in a very big country on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. They are very powerful, and they are very nice. They freed us from the Nazis. I did not need to ask about the Nazis. Listening from the grown-up, I already understood that the Nazis were very bad people who killed and destroyed on a scale unprecedented in history. And so I asked, did the American free Grandpa? My grandfather was one of the leaders of the French resistance. He was captured by the Germans and put in jail in France. My father answered, after all, I was talking about his own father. Yes, your father was on death row and was freed by the Americans just before his execution. I was born 12 miles away from Oradour-sur-Glane. For people who don't know, Oradour-sur-Glane is a martyr town. The SS division Das Reich, going up France towards Normandy to try to stop the landing after June 6, were stopped, if not by the French resistance. And as retaliation, they went to Oradour-sur-Glane. They packed all of the women and all of the children in a church, and they set it on fire. They killed all of the men, of course. 835 inhabitants were killed. That was 80% of the population, burned to death. So it was crystal clear for me, crystal clear. We were freed, thanks to the Americans. The horror had stopped, thanks to the Americans. And to show you how much this affected me and other people in France, in 2003, our two countries did not see eye to eye or did not have the same analysis of the situation in Iraq. Too many in the American media and American pundits stated that France had forgotten and was ungrateful. It was very, very painful. I knew that it's not because we did not see the same situation in Iraq and we did not have the same foreign analysis, and frankly we thought it was not a good idea, that we had forgotten what America had done for us in the Second World War. So I founded an association with 3 friends called the French Will Never Forget. Go to the website and you will see everything that we've done, but very quickly We put red rose on the tombs of all of the US soldiers fallen in France, 55,011 of them in 11 different cemeteries. We assembled 2,500 French people on Omaha Beach, the same number of GI who passed on D-Day, and they created a huge logo saying France will never forget. For the commemoration of the 10th anniversary of September 11, we assembled the largest celebration commemoration outside of the US, and possibly even including the US. We erected a replica of the World Trade Center to scale, of course, but 12-story high on the Trocadero Plaza in Paris with the Eiffel Tower in the middle. It was a very, very somber and glorious moment. The US ambassador was there, a lot of French politicians, and a lot of Franco-American friendship. And finally, for the 70th anniversary of D-Day, we showered here in the US the Statue of Liberty, and with the help of our friend from the First Company Governor Foot Guard in attendance, we showered Lady Liberty with 1 million rose petals. And I, being a paratrooper, I had the honor of doing the dropping of the rose petal, and this is engraved in my memory forever. So why do I tell you all this? Because this link that we have and that we need to nurture is very, very important. It's not important for us, it's important for our children and our grandchildren. We have the same values. We are the same people. Your democracy and the democracy of France is born from the same brew, the same intellect, the same philosopher on both sides of the Atlantic were talking at the time. As you know, many French people came here to fight for these ideas, and you came back twice in the last century to help us keep them alive. And so we are very similar, we're the same people. Sometimes we do not agree totally with you, but if you give us back our freedom, it's not to make us your 51st state. And you know, actually, you don't want to rule the French. It's even the French people cannot do that. So, so allow us sometimes to respectfully disagree, but in most of the time, 99% of the time, we are on board with you. We fight for the same values, and this is very important, and that's the very important lesson that Major Lufbery and his family here are giving us again today, and thank you very much for that. And so to finish, may God bless America, may God bless France, and may God bless the French-American friendship. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this day could not happen without you. You folks that took the time to come out to this amazing ceremony. But I also want to thank my fellow friends in the Color Guards, the amazing Wallingford Elks Lodge, Post 73, American Legion, Major Raoul Lufbery, Post 591, the 1st and 2nd Company Governor's Foot Guard from Hartford and from New Haven. Color Guards, hut! Color Sergeants, take charge of your units and dismiss.
All right, I just want to remind you to keep up with the activities of the 350th celebration. There's a website, wallingford350.org. You can go to that and keep abreast of what's happening. Again, it culminates with the big celebration in 2020, just 2 years away. And now, before we close, again, a reminder, you're invited to the VFW Post 591 for refreshments. But first, we want to have Mayor Dickinson. Is he still here? Yes, he just woke up. He's taking a little nap. He does the speed napping, and that's why he stays so fresh all the time. Mayor Dickinson.
I don't have a lot to add to today's thoughts. However, I will say the commitment to liberty, our last speaker points to that. Marquis de Lafayette was a key part of the American Revolution. And after his contribution here, he was in prison actually when he heard in 1783 about the treaty and the colonies were independent. And his comment was, at last, liberty has a home. Raoul Lufbery was saying the same thing. In 1918, we need liberty at home in France. And in the words of Dave Holloway, altogether, vive la France!
Well, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to have been part of this celebration. I met my wife in Wallingford, as many of you know. We're going to be married 54 years this year. And it's been a great run. We have a great affinity for the town. We don't live here right now. We did when I first got out of the Air Force, down on Washington Street. Third floor apartment. It was fun and cheap. And I needed cheap at that time. So again, go out and make it a great day. We got a great start to this day. Summer has finally arrived. Maybe a little too much summer at once, but it's enjoyable now that I think we've gotten past winter and we can move on. Have a wonderful day. This is a great celebration. We have a lot to be thankful for in Wallingford. Thank you.